Hi, I'm Leonard Ng and I'm from YHA Lawyers. Today we'll be discussing about illegal money lending transactions, or generally money lending transactions, and whether or not you can secure your interest under the money lending transactions via a sale and purchase agreement. Now we have several questions from our clients. One of which is, I took a loan from a money lender. He asked me to execute a sale and purchase agreement of my property to him as security for repayment of the loan. Right? Now, generally, a money lending transaction it would depend on whether it is a legal money lending transaction or it's an illegal money lending transaction. Right? Now, a legal money transaction is a situation where the person has a money lending license. Right? But most of the time, the transaction that we see the public is an illegal money lending transaction. But irrespective, if it's a money lending transaction and you use the sale and purchase agreement as security for repayment of the loan, that is wrong, that is illegal, and the sale and purchase agreement or whatever interest that you obtain from the transfer will be pronounced as null and void. Right? Now this is also what we call, or what the court call as a jual janji transaction. The court has already pronounced that the jual janji transaction is illegal, it's null and void. You cannot use sale and purchase agreement as security for repayment of your loan. Right? Now, what if you buy a property from a money lender, right, who has secured the interest through a jual janji transaction? Right? Would your interest under the property be tainted with the same illegality? Now, the answer to that is yes and no. Right? So the test is, it depends on whether you are a bona fide purchaser for valuable consideration under section 340 subsection 3 of the National Land Code. What do you mean with a bona fide purchaser for valuable consideration? Now, bona fide generally means you have to use honest effort. Right? Now, when you buy a property, you must use honest effort to determine whether the transaction is tainted with fraud, bona fide transaction in the first place. Now, you would have to carry out due diligence and check. For instance, you probably have to go over to the property and you discover that the property is currently being occupied by individuals who is not tenant, or individual who is not the vendor who is selling the property to you, right? And you're aware of the fact. Well, generally, you would have to inquire further. Why is that person staying in the property? And that person is not related to the vendor, either through a tenancy agreement, or so on and so forth. So you have to verify that. Now, secondly, for a purchase of a sales and purchase agreement, right, of a land, it's advisable that the payment of the money is carried out, right, via bank transfer, rather than cash purchase. Now, this is because a cash purchase implies that the purchase itself is tainted with fraud, right? Because why would you want to buy a property, right, which is usually a few 100,000 ringgit and above, with cash, right? Now, the payment of a purchase price via cash implies that the transaction is not bona fide, right? Therefore, it's encourageable, right? We always advise our client that when you buy a property, payment of purchase price, do via a bank transfer. You should have a bank transaction records that shows you paid for the consideration, i.e., that is to say, the purchase price. Right? Now, if you don't do that, then the transaction might also be tainted with illegality, and you cannot consider yourself to be a bona fide purchaser for valuable consideration. Bona fide needs you to purchase them, to show the elements of good faith in your purchase. Right? I guess that's all from us. And if you have any question, feel free to contact us at YHA Law.